if you have some loose change laying around, what are you buying with it? We were talking about this before because Jossie said that all she needs is money to pay her bills, and then I don't think any of us.
Mostly just gonna watch hockey.
Any of us are very big spenders.
Yeah, exactly. I just need literally just enough to cover my nut. I don't think any of us are after that, if you need me, I'll be at watching. Yeah. I'll probably be at Braemar.
We're not big shoppers.
Yeah, I'm not going many places.
So I'm asking what you like to prioritize your extra money on, because I know Peter already said his answer.
Pens and notebooks? I have a thing for pens and notebooks. I really do. Especially, I'm on the hunt.
He literally gets very
the best
excited
version of this. I love office supplies.
When he gets a new pen.
I'm going to Office Max after this.
That's like an ADHD. That's like an ADHD symptom, actually. I think.
Wow.
I have a pen in every color, every style.
It's not every color.
100 notebooks with no writing.
These are how they write. So it's much different.
I just
have all the supplies for in case I ever decide to be a student.
I also it's not every color, but I do want them in black, blue, and red.
Yeah, you're real pen specific.
I'm very pen specific.
Yeah, a
little bit sensory.
Don't try to give that man a free pen.
No.
It depends on what it is.
Some free pens are fancy.
I was gonna say, are free pens ever good? I feel like they're mostly
the Hockey Hack one.
Oh, stop!
You like the Wham one?
Bleep it out.
No,
I think you like the Wham one.
Doesn't care that their free pens aren't the best. Actually, this is a good pen.
They're kind of nice.
This is a good pen.
It's structured like a Parker Jotter.
It's got great color.
The fact that you know the brand name of that pen.
That's not a Parker Jotter.
This is a Click. CLIC.
It's structured like a Parker Jotter, but if it were a Parker Jotter, you would not buy those in bulk because Parker Jotters go for like $9 a piece.
They're individually handmade.
Right now we're using a Pilot G2 0.38 in blue. It writes very neatly, and it doesn't bleed through my moleskin notebook pages.
You should do one of those pen reviews where it's like also ASMR.
That's what we'll do in the summer when there's no hockey to report on.
It'll be Jossie's dating life, Peter's pens.
Mine is way more interesting.
Yeah, the pens are going to be
way more
Peter's pen ASMR.
Jeez Louise.
Okay, Jossie, what are you spending your money on?
Okay, well, here's the thing. You asked if I found change. I do want to know the last time I found change was on Tuesday night. I found a quarter.
Dude, hell yeah.
It was on the bench at Braemar West. And we recently started incentivizing our girls to shoot with a quarter, so a quarter per shot. So when girls shoot and hit the net.
Wow, you're paying.
I feel like that's illegal.
Is it?
Oh, no, it's not.
So it was actually great because
I feel like, it'd be illegal if you were paying anyone but your own players.
Yeah, I'm not paying other girls to shoot. So if my girls shoot, they get a quarter. So that quarter went to the fund to pay the shots or whatever. But I also have a retirement fund in my room. It's like an old flower jar because obviously I don't need a freaking flower jar. I wrote retirement fund on it, and I put all spare change in there.
Oh.
How much do you have?
I imagine it's probably $86 or $7 by now. Like that thing is filling up.
$86 or $7.
The Twin Cities Bank or whatever doesn't allow you to bring all your coins in anymore and just get the cash.
I love those
TCF.
little coin machines.
Is that the bank that we used to bank at? TCF?
I never used
Federal?
TCF.
You can walk in and
US
just dump
Bank,
your change
you
in.
still can, I believe. I love those coin counting machines.
Yeah.
So
dump them in.
I try to spend my only extra money on Amazon, I guess, because I'm freaking every day something's showing up. But good food, so key. So I take myself out once in a while for something real nice. And then I try to go on like at least one trip to the beach by myself.
Which beach?
I go somewhere in Florida, so you can fly there super cheap.
Yeah.
You can get an Airbnb for like $16 a night if you don't mind rats.
Do you mind rats?
Yeah, I know.
So
I got a more expensive one.
$17.
I paid a little extra for a better room, but yeah, my spare change goes to like one warm vacation when my vitamin D3 levels are so low that I can't function anymore, like in February or March.
Nice. I'm glad you brought up good food because I'm actually looking at the menu for Meritage right now. I want to see what their
I don't even know what that is.
What their oyster selection
fancy
is.
people go.
It's a downtown St. Paul restaurant.
It's where
I just said none of us spend money, and then here you're talking about trips to Florida.
No, I will spend my money on good food, steak, and because like the Florida trip, that's like health and wellness because
It's self-care.
Yeah.
Self-care.
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 I'll get all my annual reading done in 1 week.
Yeah.
Do
Kayla,
Mexico
what about
works
you?
too. You could do Mexico too if you're not worried about like the cartel or whatever.
I'm never worried about
Rats.
the
Cartel.
There's always
Same
risks.
thing. I probably would say that I spend my money on like hobbies that I probably pick up for like a couple months and then forget about.
That's
Like
also
art-
so
like art
ADHD.
supplies?
It is
It
so
is.
ADHD.
It really is. I have probably like every craft you can think of. I probably have like enough to like do it for like 2 years.
Yeah.
But I like never.
Teach a class.
I have like embroidery stuff. I've got polymer clay.
Do you have a bedazzler?
I do not.
Do you have a Cricut?
bedazzler.
Well,
I do have a Cricut.
I figured.
Yep.
I could
love
probably get you to
that.
Cricut some stuff for me.
Cricut.
We talked
You
about that, I
could,
think.
for sure. I don't know what to use it for.
So
I used
Maisie's
it for, like, Christmas
been on the
gifts.
same plan as you. I figured out a way to get Tony to like hire her sometimes, sell tickets and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, because most of my spare money literally goes to 2 teenagers. These kids are ruthless. They literally ask for $100 a day each. Anyway, I got Maisie a job. So she keeps getting
Nice.
these nice paychecks, right?
Yeah.
Like after a big weekend of work, it's like she might have $100-200. So 3 consecutive tournaments. She's picked up some new business she's gonna start right after. Like I'm in nail tech. And she uses every
I
single
love that.
dollar that
Hey, at least she's doing something to make
she
more
uses
money.
every dollar that she earned to buy all the products to build a business to make more money. But she's done that 3 times. She's like $700 deep in 3 different businesses.
What are the 3
She has
different
no
businesses?
clients. Well, it's nails. I think it's like tattoos.
Okay.
And there's a third one.
Piercings?
No, she's busy. She's planning this next one. And I
Oh.
keep kind of like, I don't know, like when the paycheck came and I just like told her it hadn't been there yet. Like I'm trying to kick the can down the road
Okay.
before she buys all the supplies for this third one. What? Oh, lip gloss. Lip gloss was the second one. All the supplies for a lip gloss business. So we've got all the nail stuff, the lip stuff, and the third one is coming up. I don't know. Like I said,
You're gonna have to
Drop
start
shipping.
forbidding new businesses until she
honestly,
makes some
like
money.
you guys, like that's. I'm like, what kind of a mother am I? I'm like, Maisie, no, you're not starting any new businesses.
Hey, that's. I feel like there's got to be a point where you stop the new businesses.
You're
and you
a hoarder.
Keep going with a business.
There's no time for business while we're getting treated for all the.
People always tell
stuff
me stuff
that
like
you're
with my
hoarding.
hobbies that I should like sell them, and I'm like, no, because then it's not fun anymore.
I actually read a really
Yeah.
interesting article about that it's a symptom, and maybe this is way too deep before the lunch hour, but it's a symptom of our hyper-capitalistic society that everybody looks at a hobby as like, okay, how can I make money on this hobby?
How can I make money?
Back
really
to,
want to.
Back to self-care. Like, I don't need any extra freaking dollars for
No.
freaking anything. I just need enough to cover the
Frickin'.
basics.
I want.
And then I want to be at the
I
rink.
want to make my crafts in peace, and I don't want to think about the fact that it's not perfect, so it's not sellable to someone. Like
Nobody's
it's
going to want this
oh.
valueless item.
This valueless item.
There's no way around. On top of the mound, I'm queen of the mountain. My cup running over. I already told ya, I'm moving fast. You live in the past.
I cannot listen to that song without jamming.
I'm so bummed out right now. No, all of these deals on oysters don't exist anymore.
Why do you
They're
want
just flash
oysters?
deals?
I love oysters.
Were they just like flash deals prior to the
It's a
song?
random thing to want right now.
Oysters?
I don't know.
They're
I feel like
Especially
so
when you're starving. If
good,
you're like
dude.
starving
I'm
while you're like,
so hungry.
dude, I'm just
Give me
going
some
to pile
oy-
up oysters in
Do you
there.
guys not like oysters?
Yeah, but you get like 2.
You know, I don't know if I've ever had them.
you don't fill up on them. They're not like I'm starving food.
Yeah.
No, they're not. I'm thinking.
Are there even
about them
calories?
right
Like-
now. There are calories. There's also protein.
Is there?
And zinc.
I guess there would be protein
and
in them.
zinc.
Well, now I'm not going to ask you guys what your
Wait,
favorite
do
type
ask.
of oyster is.
I don't even
I
know
really like
what
the ones from the
types are.
PEI.
Do you actually?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
No, like I'll do 1 or 2, right? Just to fit in with the fancy people at the lunch you're at or whatever. But like,
You guys
first
must
of
go
all,
to fancier
no one's
lunches
trying to
than
spend
me.
that kind of money on food.
No, this is from Meritage, which is mine and Laura's like special place. So when we go
Jake
out,
and my special place is called Wendy's. We get a 4 for $4. We're both too cheap. We don't really spend money.
4 for $4.
That's your special place is Wendy's?
No.
Okay,
I don't
I was
actually
gonna
know
say,
if we
come on.
have a special place of eating food, though. Like, maybe...
Giordano's Pizza? That's the only time I've ever seen you two
Out eating?
eat at the same time. Was that the company Christmas
I've
party?
never been there before.
That place is good.
That
It
was
was
good.
pretty good.
It was good.
It was pretty good.
Pizza.
Before we get too far into this, we should also mention our wonderful sponsor, Dogwood Coffee. You're getting us through the day. I'm pretty jacked up. This is my third coffee of the day. But we have our beautiful mugs. We have our wonderful can here, the Zamboni Cold Brew. That is my personal favorite. I don't know if you can hear this.
You kind of can.
I could hear it. The ice cube theme.
Ready to talk some women's hockey.
Okay, we have so much to talk about, and the most fun part of our whole episode is our interview with Bethany. So I just want to slam through some of these results and some of this upcoming stuff because I want to spend most of our time over at St. Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's mix things up.
Go to the PWHL first.
Let's do it.
Okay, so on Tuesday, Claire Thompson had herself one heck of a game, and it was her birthday, so it was especially fun.
She turned like 23, didn't she?
I don't know how old she is.
She was drafted
Probably because
this
she was
summer.
drafted.
Yeah,
so
she
She must be like 22.
She is tied for the leading scorer with Taylor Heisey and Kendall Coyne, but hers are mostly assists. She's got 14 points, and now 3 of them are goals because she got 2 goals on her birthday. And then she also got 1 assist, so she got 3 points on her birthday.
That's crazy. She triples her goals in one
I know.
game.
That's crazy.
Good
and
for her,
then
man.
she also, that game was really good. They ended up going into a shootout, and the shootout was won basically by her because she got a goal, and Minnesota got 2 goals, and it was technically won by Rooney because she saved the last shot.
It's a heck of a birthday, man.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was crazy.
She's a clutch player.
And I feel like, I don't know if they normally send her out in the shootout.
but she was just hot.
But they were like, yeah, you got 2 goals.
It's your birthday.
It's your birthday. And it was really cute because the whole XL Energy Center was singing happy birthday after she scored because the announcer was like, she got a goal on her birthday. And then everyone sang happy birthday to
That'd
her.
be so funny if
It was very cute.
Coach Ken Klee was just like, hey, Claire, it's your birthday. Go take this shot real quick.
Go
For your
take this
birthday.
shot.
For this, the day of your birth.
And then they also won 5-2 on Sunday versus the Fleet, which I feel like is the biggest win. I don't know factually, but I feel like biggest like number differential ever.
Oh, like-
because I feel
Okay.
like every single game that I've
One
gone
goal.
to, they've been ties or not ties, but like they've gone into overtime.
Yeah.
They have so many overtime games, so they won
lot of
5-2. Katie Knoll got her first 2 points in the PWHL, 1 goal and 1 assist in the same
Yay.
game.
A multi-point game?
Yeah, and then Heisey got 2 goals in that, and that was good because she had 4 games of like no points.
Out or whatever.
And I think she's injured, but I don't really know how.
Yeah, it's like lower
Someone
body. or-
said something.
she
about
was in
her
like a
being
knee
injured.
brace at the beginning of
Yeah.
the season,
Yeah,
so maybe it's related.
but she has 14 points this season, 4 goals, 10 assists, and 2 of those were on Sunday's game, so 2
Nice.
goals.
Okay.
Then they also don't play. So this last Tuesday was their last home game until February 23rd. They have
my
a long
gosh.
break of no home
3
games.
weeks,
I know.
dude.
I don't know why.
International play, isn't it?
No, but they
No,
still
there's no
play.
international play. There's probably some good reason for it.
Yeah, they still play. So this Tuesday they played Toronto again. Maybe I wrote that wrong.
They
I don't
probably
know.
do.
They probably
There's only
do.
a few
They
teams
probably
in the
do.
league,
You're
right?
right. You're right.
I mean,
I think
They play 'em 100
they
times.
Do. That's February 11th. So they don't play for like a week and a half now.
that seems weird to me, considering there isn't any international play.
Are we sure there's not international play?
I mean, it'd be on our slide.
Okay.
Research department, check that out.
Yeah, I'll look it up after this. Then
Wait a minute. There is a rivalry series coming
Oh,
up.
okay.
Oh,
I was gonna say for some reason I felt like something was happening,
But
they don't play.
Yeah,
for like
it is the rivalry
10
series.
or 11 days.
Yeah, we'll tell you guys more about that later.
yeah.
Stay tuned.
And then in league news, the standings, Montreal is like crushing it.
Boo.
Their win. I'm not gonna go based on games won because they've played 3 less games than us, but they have won 72% of their games.
Whoa.
You know, we just got started with the saying of the Frost name last week or whatever,
Yeah.
and we're winning since.
Yeah, so we can't say their name anymore.
Well, we can't say the one team.
We can't say the team in number
Can't
one
do
spot.
what I want to do so bad.
They have a .72 win percentage, and then the Frost have a 55% win. So,
But
they're
3 more
still
games,
they're still
but 3
positive.
games later, what
Still
could that look like
Yeah.
if they win their 3 games, right?
Could look
still,
worse.
Still positive. Could look worse. Yep.
Wow.
And that's about it. I feel like, besides the fact that our 3 people are tied for number 1 in the league, but they've also played more games than everybody else. So.
Right.
We might see a change
They have
in
an
that.
advantage. But that is a good segue into our rivalry series. The roster for the Team USA was dropped this week, finalized at least. So I think they cut a few names. Pretty common looking list. I think there's a couple players who are getting their first shot at this roster. And then a lot of familiar names.
Okay.
But one name that we did see that was conspicuously left off was our Abby Brausen. I wonder if that has to do with like school, maybe. Maybe there's a good reason for it, but even some of our fans are noting that in their comments under our
School?
video. But yeah, like why are we not seeing Brausen on here?
We have the Minnesota Frost has the most players on the team with 6. Boston Fleet has 5.
Okay.
So yeah, that was just something that was noted, and I thought that was an insightful observation. But again, it could be related to her priorities right now. Maybe a weekend series in Nova Scotia is not a top priority while she's in med school. I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions, but maybe we'll get more information on that and follow up with you. So anyway, Rivalry Series, we played February 6th and 7th in Nova Scotia. And I think we have mixed feelings about that, right? It's an awesome opportunity to showcase some of the top U.S. players versus the top Canadian players. But right now, this roster is almost all PWHL.
It's all PWHL.
All PWHL.
Yeah.
So is a 10-day break in
necessary
in the middle of their
Yeah.
season while they're on a takeover tour that's netting 20,000 fans a game, like, is it necessary? We've got some people that love to go watch some hockey at the X, watch their home team. So something to think about. Something to think about.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting, especially
Rivalry-
since all of them are playing
The
in
rivalry
PWHL.
series is maybe playing its course, or maybe you need to pull some girls, like pull those names from girls that are playing out east, or excuse me, even in Europe. Like, how do we pull over some of these girls that need to get featured under their, as an opportunity instead of shutting down other leagues for this. So that's my hot take for today. I didn't even know I was going to have it. And then you guys got to give me a second because I closed my file that I wanted open.
Go there. Hey, look at you.
I have a lot going on.
Opening
here,
up the
guys.
Google Doc.
Bear with me. We're almost to the I'm almost to files.
We should make stat sheets for ourselves, like
Number of times Jocelyn
Like
didn't
wins of
screw
the
up
week?
everything.
wins of the week.
Wins of the
when you
week.
felt like a champ.
I would like to do that. I would actually like to do that. I probably already keep a steady
back
diary of it.
To the PWHL, I'm
Yeah.
a photographer. I got to shoot on the bench. I was really
Yeah, you
excited.
did.
Yes.
You were
was
really
so
excited.
cool. I literally was like, first of all, they put me on the sheet, and normally I go look at the sheet, and I'm like, oh, where do I get to stand? I was like, I'm on the bench. I'm so excited.
You're like a teacher's pet over there. Like
I'm
they
so
kind
excited.
of like you over there, don't they? They always give you the
no,
offensive
they're pretty fair. I feel like there's not enough people to like gouge you, I guess.
Yeah.
But I told him, I was like, thanks so much, and then he like showed me how to get there, and I was sitting there, and like it's intense. They're like sticks.
I was like,
and-
I've
It's
seen
going
people.
a little fast.
I think Ben Clymer.
Fast.
I think one of the Wild announcers
Yeah.
like 2 seasons ago got stitches in his face.
yeah. The
Small price to pay.
I know they're. I don't know what do they call that? The EMT, basically, that sits on their bench. I know her because she was the EMT for the Whitecaps, and I was like, I've never stood here before, and she was like, just remember to duck.
Yeah, don't stop paying attention for a second.
You didn't have to wear a helmet, though, right?
They didn't. No, PWHL doesn't have any rules like the Wild does. Like Wild, they make you wear a helmet. So, but it was kind of cool. I could like hear the coaches and stuff talking. I could also like Heisey push someone like right into me, like into the bench. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is scary.
She's like winking at you like, you're welcome.
Yeah, pretty much. It was pretty cool. That was my win for the week.
Nice.
So.
I'm going to start tracking. I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Next week. All right. Moving on to we're flipping and flopping all around because of our exciting interview. So we'll go results. Probably the only key result from the D3 league was Tuesday night's game. Number 7 Gustavus versus number 1 UW River Falls. That was an exciting matchup, and Gustavus won that. Gustavus won 3-2, so the underdog wins that one. Super, super exciting for Gustavus. I see Bailey Olson scores for River Falls there, and I see Lily Mortenson's name twice on the assist list. I've actually got her noted. Lily Mortenson, since last Friday, has 9 points. So she had a goal and 2 assists on Friday against St. Kate's, 3 goals, a hat trick and an assist on Saturday against St. Kate's, and then 2 assists against River Falls, the number 1 team in the nation, for 9 points in 3 games since Friday. So Lily Mortenson's on fire. I love that for her. She's got 29 points over the season, and she's tied for 5th in the league. Bailey Olson took over 1st in the league with 36 points on that goal, overtaking Megan Goudreau, who's number 2 in the nation with 35 points. So
Minnesotans just all over the place.
Minnesotans at D3 in our little local schools are dominating. So other results, D3, that are less close to home in the NESCAC conference, Middlebury and Bowdoin played. Middlebury is ranked number 1 in Division 3, and Bowdoin was ranked number 10 last week. They split the series, so Bowdoin beats Middlebury 2-1 on Sunday, which moves Bowdoin up a spot into 3rd in the country. But just notable that number 1 was taken down, and number 2 also in the same weekend for Division 3. And then Division 1 results in the Atlantic Conference. Let's see, Penn State's leading the conference. They beat Lindenwood 3-1 and 4-0 this weekend. In the ECAC, Colgate's leading the conference. Notable, St. Lawrence, ranked 9th in the country, beat Clarkson, ranked 7th in the country, 6-5 on Friday. And then they split that series, so Clarkson wins 1-0 on Saturday. Hockey East, Maine. They swept their weekend. They swept UNH, so big, huge weekend, Maine. I'm super excited for Molly and her squad out there. Reagan Worm, she's from Buffalo. She scored a goal for Maine on Friday or Saturday. Let's see, I've got that in here somewhere.
It's Worm, W-U-R-M.
Reagan Worm, my kid's second cousin.
Wait, what?
We talked about this the first time she scored.
We didn't.
I think we did because I said something about
she's related to the Lakeville.
Gracie Hansen is also related to me somehow.
We were like related to
We were
for
talking
real?
about how we were related to people. Yeah.
I'm not related to anybody.
Her dad is my mom's cousin or something. Don't know.
Your cousin 4 times removed or something?
Basically. It's a really important family connection. We see each other
important.
all the time.
Holidays, you name it.
Best friends.
Okay, speaking of Maine news, too, I did see somewhere on Twitter this week that Reese McConnell from Edina committed to Maine this week, probably because of all the talking we do about Maine.
We talked about that on our girls' high school pod, I think. Reese McConnell?
Yeah, Reese McConnell committed to Maine, which
that combines all these things I like. Edina, Maine, hockey.
And a player like Reese McConnell, who going into last season, everybody thought she was behind Nora Hannon on the depth chart because Nora Hannon was, I believe, invited to the USA Hockey U18 camp and was committed to St. Thomas. And then Reese McConnell took over and won the whole damn thing last year for Edina. So Edina becomes the second, I believe it's the second Class 2A program that has 2 Division I committed goaltenders that play an equal amount of time.
And their goaltender from last year is D1 right now.
Which one?
Uma?
She's
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Uma.
Yeah, just pumping out goals.
Uma, Nora Hannon, Reese McConnell. I'm trying to think of who the other one was. Uma, I don't know.
Well, yeah, nobody would have stuck around. Everybody under Uma just went to different schools because why bother?
Yeah, actually, I don't blame you.
You might as well just go play somewhere else. So, all right, Nuha, Sacred Heart, and LIU were tied going into the weekend with 39 points. They split their weekend. They played each other. They're still both tied for first. So lots of weekend splits last weekend. A little bit more on Nuha. So our defensive player of the week, Lily Barrett from Stonehill, a junior from Little Canada. She's on a multi-game scoring streak. She had 3 assists over her 2-game weekend, earning her that defensive player of the week. An honor roll defensive player of the week goes to Olivia LaRoche from Sacred Heart.
She will be on your broadcast someday as a color commentator or a play-by-play person.
Nice. Goalie of the week, Abby Thompson from LIU. So she has a shutout on Saturday and 22 saves on Friday. And the honor roll goaltender of the week goes to Carly Green from Sacred Heart. Rookie of the week honor roll in the Nuha goes to Addie Bowlby from Sacred Heart. And then we've got some wows coming out of the WCHA this week, which is rare. We'll start with some Friday scores. Minnesota State and Ohio. Let's see, Ohio sweeps that series. University of Minnesota sweeps Bemidji. Let's see. And then
I actually saw that game. I forgot. I did see women's hockey this week.
Because that was at the hockey
Valley
day.
Fair.
Yeah.
Oh.
Gophers versus Bemidji was.
Okay, so
Not a super important one to report on, but I did
Minnesota just ran
Minnesota
roughshod
dominated. Like they were in their zone the whole time.
Yeah,
Abby Murphy, she just kind of
That was
keeps
such
the game
a
in
good
track.
goal.
Yeah, she just
Such a
kind
good
of
goal.
like
she's okay.
It's like however she's feeling that day is kind of how the Gophers are feeling that day.
Like, okay, I don't know hockey terms. It's gonna sound dumb. She like went around a defender,
Deked.
and then she like, I don't even know what you call this with her skates, but she like stopped. And there's this, I have this picture of her with her like snow coming out.
That's sweet.
She like stopped around the goalie and like flicked it up, and it looks so pretty. I was like, that was like the prettiest goal I've seen.
She's super good. So, okay. So out of the 4 series, I think there's, again, all sweeps. No, okay, yes. Wisconsin wins in overtime or in a shootout in their game against St. Cloud State on Sunday. So that's really notable. Wisconsin is like by far the number 1 team in the country. St. Cloud State's been dropping from 8th down to 11th over the last few weeks. St. Cloud.
Good for St. Cloud.
Comes out and ends regulation in a tie with Wisconsin, where again I think they win in the shootout in that game. But otherwise, it's like another typical sweep weekend for the WCHA. Although I haven't noted the St. Thomas Duluth sweep yet because St. Thomas swept Duluth. Duluth is ranked number 4 in the country. They've been in the top 5 all year. St. Thomas is doing the best they can with, an interim head coach and all sorts of adversity. So I'm so excited for St. Thomas, and we do have some time spent with Bethany in a minute, but let's go through some of the Summit scores from these other games I'm telling you about. Division 1. Let's see. Division 1. Lindsay Avar scores for Cornell 3 times this weekend. Once on Friday, twice on Saturday.
I love how it just says Lindsay Avar and then in parentheses corn.
Corn. Kristen Browning from Assumption College, Lily Fetch at Maine, Juliana Gastick at MSU, Olivia Grabnowski from Lindenwood, Peyton Hemp at the University of Minnesota. I'm writing her name down often. Sloan Matthews scores twice for OSU. That's awesome because OSU gets a lot of good goal scoring, but not often Minnesotans. Taylor Otremba, who we see all the time. Emma Peschel at OSU. Caitlin Roberts, one of my favorites at Penn State. Stella Retram at Penn State. Maddie Skelton at Vermont. And Audrey Wethington at the University of Minnesota. Those are all Friday scores. Saturday, Maddie
big
Christian.
day.
I know, Maddie Christian at Penn State, Lily Deliandis at Cornell, Delaney Fleming at Cornell, Lily Geist at Sacred Heart, Claire Vekich at MSU, Gracie Wolf at St. Cloud State, and then I mentioned Regan Worm, and I've left off all of our scores from UST and Duluth so that we can note them here. So on Thursday, Riley Bartz, Maddie Brown, and Ilsa Lindemann all scored for St. Thomas in their Friday night win over UMD. Olivia Mobley and Danny Bergen scored on Friday for UMD. And then on Friday, Riley Bartz, Ella Berger, Chloe Bereen, little sister of Abby, and Lauren Stensley scored for St. Thomas in their 4-3 win on Friday. So congratulations, St. Thomas. That's a huge weekend, and I want to talk a little bit more about it. So let's go over to the University of St. Thomas and sit down with Bethany. All right, we are here at the University of St. Thomas with recently appointed head coach of the University of St. Thomas women's hockey team, Bethany Brausen. Thank you so much for having us today.
Yeah, thanks for joining me, you guys. It's an honor.
We've just been talking about D1 results, and probably the first thing we want to talk about is your huge weekend. Not only were you named coach of the program, which people have been anxiously awaiting the announcement for, but you also swept top 5 University of Minnesota Duluth. Let's talk a little bit about that. What was it that came together for you this weekend that you guys have been itching for? And I mean, you gave Ohio a run for their money earlier this year, and you've had some really strong weekends. What was it that came together this weekend for you guys?
Yeah, good question. I think for us, like, you hit the nail on the head. We've been talking a lot about just kind of knocking on the door of success, and gosh, I tell you what, it is awfully tough to continue to show up at the rink, do the right things, especially for these players who have just such a high level of commitment, physically going to the class every day. And so I think when you're kind of knocking on that door of success, but you're not getting rewarded for it in the win-loss column, that's where it gets challenging. But I think that they're a very resilient, very mature group. They understand what we're up against from a standpoint of just our opponents. I think the WCHA is by far the best league in the country. Every single weekend, it feels like you're playing a top 10 opponent, and the couple that are not might as well be. And so I think for us, we've actually been using this analogy, and I talked about this the other day, but this idea of an ice cube. And let's say you're in a room, you have an ice cube sitting on a table, and the room is heating up from 29 degrees to 30 degrees to 31. The ice cube never changes, but you're doing the right things to essentially get that change. You're showing up every single day. You're going to practice. You're going to school. You're buying into the team culture. So you're doing all the right things, but then you actually get to 32 degrees. It's that 1 degree of separation, and the ice cube starts to melt. And so that's an analogy that we've been using with our team as of late, is we really have been doing all the right pieces to make sure that those things are in place to have success. And for them, just such a great reward for them, not only to beat Duluth one time as a top 5 opponent, but to do it twice back-to-back like that, and really solidify for them and for others that wasn't by chance, but that was something that we were very capable of and earned 2 days in a row.
Yeah, I think that's so special, and that the ice cube analogy is fantastic. And I know some of the girls on your roster, and they have that great kind of eager beaver mind, the mindset. In some of these series that you haven't won, I've seen really incredible individual efforts from players. I mean, these are really, really strong players, and a lot of them are younger. Talk a little bit about that. Like, you're going up against Duluth and some of these teams that have these girls that have been through their COVID year or added a year, and you're building a group of girls that are, I mean, some of your biggest strengths are sophomores. Yeah. How is that, and what does that look like for you in the next year or two against some of these top 8 nationally ranked teams with the 5 in the WCHA?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because I was actually thinking about this morning, because full transparency, I kind of got a tear in my eye on the bench before our Friday game, because I just noticed, and I've always known this, but really started to pay attention to the starting lineup. And of course, Duluth is getting announced, and it's 5th-year player A, and junior player B, and senior player C.
Doctoral candidate D.
Yeah. But they're going through their announcements, and it's these players that have been in the league, like you said, for 4 or 5 years, upperclassmen, and then they start to announce St. Thomas. And it's freshman defender Kaylin Mum and sophomore defender Ella Housey.
Freshman goalie.
Correct, exactly, with Danny Strum. And it brought a tear to my eye because I was like, these young women have no idea what they have done in their first year and a half and how much they've grown. And I've talked with Danny Strum, our goaltender, about this a lot because she's been asked to fill some really big spots and play these really incredible opponents. And I keep reminding them, you guys, your junior year version of yourself, your senior year version of yourself is going to thank you for all the early opportunity that you got, as hard as it was, whether that was being in these really tight competitive games, playing the top teams in the country as a freshman, being asked to go on a power play, a penalty kill. I mean, those are huge roles to fill. And frankly, they're roles that I never had the opportunity as a player to really lean into and get the opportunity to really take advantage of. So I think while we are young with so much of that talent, like I said, what an opportunity for these young players, not only our sophomores, our freshmen, but our incomers in the next couple of years too, to step immediately into these big spots of a program and have a high level of impact.
Well, I think there's something to be said for that. And if you're a junior or senior looking for a school right now, call Bethany because
I didn't tell her to say that, but I'm not turning it away.
If you take a look around, though, and I'm trying to pull some numbers because I think that especially coming out of a state like Minnesota as a top hockey player and being used to filling the big boots roles, a lot of Minnesota freshmen have a really hard time transitioning and going into their first year of college or even their second. And I see Minnesota names fill the portal year over year over year. And they're not getting what they expected when they show up at school. Although historically, even in a younger sport, even in the early years of the WCHA, players weren't coming in as freshmen and sophomores and getting a ton of ice and being in those big roles. So what a unique opportunity for students coming to St. Thomas. And one of the unique aspects of St. Thomas is that it's a private school. It's hard to get into. There's a culture in this school of education first, and these kids are scholars first. And so to get this incredible talent on top of education-minded students first, I imagine you've got a group of disciplined girls that really do get it, even though they're younger.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we talked about before the podcast, but you're exactly right. Like, obviously, as a women's hockey player, we're so fortunate now because the PW exists and there's a professional league finally, and it's really grown, which is incredible. But no different than any other sport, either gender. At some point, you are done with hockey. And I'll be the first to admit, maybe I'm biased because I'm probably way more into school than most people are. We talked about I'm doing my dissertation right now. But I and we as a staff, we are always going to be a huge advocate of what it means to be a student athlete first and to get that education. I know I shared with you it's a really unique atmosphere. It's one that I never had an opportunity to stay in the Midwest and go to the WCHA with an academic school like St. Thomas, where there's 20 kids in your classroom and your professor knows you by name and probably your siblings.
And
names.
might be in the stands at your games.
They're at the stands. I mean, Kira Parker's professor is singing the national anthem the other day, like I told you. And so it's a really special environment from an academic perspective where you can go and play, like I said, what I think is the most competitive hockey in the country in the WCHA and have a really prestigious academic institution and opportunity. And to your point, I think when that discipline exists in the classroom, it's impossible to have those same recruited players not have that same level of discipline in their sport as well.
Yeah, I think University of St. Thomas is poised in a really, really good position right now, and I've been saying it for several months that this is a team that I think is going to be in the top 5 in the next year. And somebody to absolutely watch. But I want to talk a little bit, too, about the Ohio series earlier this year, because that was one of the first times this season that I think eyeballs popped and it was like, wait a minute, St. Thomas just took Ohio to overtime. And it was really like, watch out. So, because that was early in the season. And this is prior to the resignation of Joel. So what major changes have you been able to implement or to help the girls stay focused between a weekend like Ohio and then a few tougher weekends and this Duluth weekend? Yeah,
it's a great question. I think the really good thing is it's been 3.5 years of being with the program, and that's from multiple staff, not just a single person. And so we really do have a great foundation that we've built on over the first 3.5 years. I think that we are doing the right things. We talked a lot about discipline in the last question, but really doing a lot of the right things from a standpoint of defense focused first. I think that any great program that I've ever seen or been a part of has always had a defensive focus, which everyone wants to think about offense and scoring goals, but I think that does start to take care of itself when you are prioritizing the defensive side of the game. And so I think structurally we've been very, very good in that space. I think that's why you look at games like Ohio or Clarkson, Penn State, all top 15 teams in the country, and we're pushing overtime with them. Our first series of the second half, we played Minnesota to a 1-goal game with 20 seconds left. I just don't think that's a coincidence with keeping those scores tight and doing a great job, like I said, defensively. And so that's always going to be a hallmark of the program. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, how do you build some creativity? How do you build some other systems to really make sure that in the neutral zone and the offensive zone, you're adding something different? We've talked a lot about the power play in the second half. We have struggled in that stretch that you described, scoring on the power play. Now, every single weekend in the second half, we've actually generated goals every single weekend. Awesome. And again, this is against top teams. Yeah. So I can't give you all the secrets as to maybe why that's working. Yes. And we hope that we have that answer internally. But just kind of making some changes and being okay really pushing the status quo of what we've done with our program and trying new things and trying different combinations and being okay to go back to the drawing board. I think that's an area that we could have been better from the past, is maybe not being so regimented in what we've always done, but really being ready to adapt, change, pivot when the opportunity presents itself.
I love that. We pull Summit scores. One of our sponsors is Summit Orthopedics, and on Fridays and Saturdays, I go through the scores, and one of my favorite things about St. Thomas, MSU is similar, but each weekend it's like 5 different names. I mean, it's like it's the scoring's just all up and down the roster. Yeah. You don't have 1 or 2 people scoring all of your goals, so I get to write down different names every week, and so that there's something driving from that kind of defensive-minded, make the game happen in the neutral zone and see who pops out with the opportunity in the O zone. So. Something's working.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it does. It takes, you got to do it by committee. And I know that we talked about the younger players on our team, and of course they're contributing at such a high level for us, which is so fun to see. But man, our senior and junior leadership too, and what they bring to the table and their experience and how they play the game. And when you talk about game of integrity and playing defense first, our seniors and juniors, they're leading the way in that. And so it does take years of experience to really bring that to the table. And like you said, it's by committee. We have a lot of really great, talented individual players, but they're doing it as a team, absolutely.
Yeah. So St. Thomas has faced incredible adversity. Actually, my freshman year of college, my head coach at Wisconsin resigned. What are you seeing from those seniors and those juniors, or do you have some underclassmen really stepping up to the table as a leader through this tough time while you are interim? I know you were named interim pretty quickly, which leaves some assurance for the girls. But since then until now, what are you seeing in the locker room or off the ice that's really contributing to the way that the girls are coming together and overcoming this adversity that they've dealt with up until naming you the head coach finally?
Yeah, I would absolutely just tip my cap to the players. I mean, I said this earlier, but when I said they're a resilient group, I've said this multiple times. They are by far the most resilient group I've ever seen in any sports program. So it's been really, really fun and such a privilege to just witness them really do life in a real way. And like you said, fight an adversity component that no one predicted necessarily. And so I think the biggest thing is whether it's a senior, you mentioned the sophomores, our freshmen, I mean, everywhere in between. I think the biggest thing is through this time, they've really gotten freed up to kind of just be themselves again and find their love of the game and not put so much precedence on just the hockey, which ironically I think is what makes you play your best. And so Jen Trotter, our softball coach, she had reached out shortly after things had kind of transitioned there. And she said, I think the biggest thing to remember is keep what's important. And I've thought about that every day since. It's so true. And I think that's what our players are doing. They are remembering that hockey is a game and it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be enjoyed and just have a smile on your face when you go to the rink, right? And then in that gives you permission to completely be your authentic self. And I will always advocate for that at a coach level is we need players to feel like they have permission to show up as their full self, as to belong in our group, to be who they are, because I think that's when you get the best leadership. It looks very, very different for every single player, but you can see when they're leaning into just kind of their own individuality, that's where you get the best out of everyone.
That like gives me chills, because that is one of my missions as a youth coach, is to provide a space for people to really feel comfortable and feel like they belong there and they can be who they are. And that does actually, create the opportunity to be the best hockey player out there. So that's really, really cool.
Absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit more about you and your hockey history.
Great. Okay.
This is, we came all the way this way because we're super excited that you were named the head coach of the program, and highly deserved. This program is so fortunate to have you. Peter, what do you?
I'm just watching two goats go at it right now, dog.
No, I want to know, like, what you are, like, really good at.
Googling.
Well, yeah.
Looking at elite prospects. I actually have a couple of questions regarding
Yeah.
St. Thomas, if
Okay.
you don't mind me hopping in. How do you keep those upperclassmen engaged? Because it would be really easy for a player like a Rachel Golnitz or a Maddie Jurgensen to feel like, I've been here for 4 or 5 years, and now these underclassmen are coming in and they're getting all the points, and now we're finally having success. How do you keep them engaged and let Maddie Jurgensen know, like, hey, your contributions are valid even if you're not putting up the same number of points that your underclassmen are? How do you and Marty manage to do that?
Yeah. I think it's the hardest challenge of a coach, and we talk to our players about this all the time, and I did the same thing. It's very natural to feel like your time on the ice or your point production is your value, and it's absolutely not. And I think it's having those conversations as often as possible and trying to acknowledge players in every single role on your program, because everyone does play a huge critical piece of any success of the program. And so I think it's a challenge. It's an ongoing conversation. I think plenty of players come in on the team and they have conversations with their coaches about, how do I continue to provide a higher level of impact? How do I get more ice time? That's a very natural part of being an athlete, is you want more and you want to be competitive. So I think that at a coach level, it's important to continue to provide value and have those conversations and validate that. But it happens at the team level too. I think equally or more in some ways. Within the 4 walls of the locker room, they need to believe that every single player on the team is a huge part of it. And maybe that role is more, you're a big time penalty killer for us, and that's a huge part of your identity. Is you might not get as many shifts on the power play or offensively, but man, do we need you in this spot? And so I think I look at like a professional team, they have the same things going, as people fill different roles and have different responsibilities. But it just cannot be undersold enough how important every single role is.
And you have a psychology background. From a psychological standpoint, how do you avoid a letdown? After sweeping UMD, you said you had a tear in your eye on the bench. The girls swept a top 5 team. That's amazing. You still have games to play. St. Cloud State's up next. This is not a one-time thing. How do you recalibrate and remind yourself, we have games to play, ladies? We have a top 20 team. Are you guys going to St. Cloud or coming?
St. Cloud's 11.
Yeah,
they're in
number
the top
11
20
in the country. Yeah, Ohio's up there too, I guess. So
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. No, we're in a stretch of, in the beginning of the first half here, all of them were top 10. Now St. Cloud has gotten edged out. They're only 11. So a lot of very good opponents, back to back. Want to say that right? 5 weekends in a row.
Yeah.
But I think for us, there is a degree of excitement. We talked about the ice cube and like it's finally melting. And I heard one of our players be like, "We've turned the corner. We're arriving." And they've been working at that for years and years to really authentically feel that and get rewarded for it. And so I do think, someone had asked the question, like, what's next for St. Thomas now that we've officially started this new chapter? And I said we get back to work.
NCAA postseason?
Yep. Yeah, not this year.
But next year?
Yeah, hopefully next year. It looks like all those things are moving in the right direction, which is great. But yeah, I think that's the big thing is, number one, our group's excited. I think that they are not satisfied. They feel like, we've started to prove something, but we're a long way home. And so I think there's that degree to it. And for me as a coach, I look at opponents like St. Cloud, opponents like Ohio. I think we have a really driven group that is just going to say, hey, that's a step in the right direction, but we're nowhere near close to what we want to prove this year. And I hear them say that in the locker room. So how do you mentally reset? I think it really comes down to the girls in that space, and you keep encouraging them in that way to stay hungry, to stay motivated, to keep proving themselves. But fortunate for us as coaches, I think they naturally do that.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is there's no like hockey Rorschach test that you make them do after practice to
No,
go
I
back to
haven't
square
introduced that yet. Maybe that's
Not
for,
yet.
Maybe that's for next fall.
I'm
No.
curious too, like how much of their like age and youth being underclassmen leads to some of the naivete that gives them even more motivation. Imagine a group of girls that didn't just transition from D3 to D1 and who aren't young and eager. That maybe Duluth makes the same change 3 years ago, and they've got these older girls, and they're like, "There's no hope. Forget it. We'll just ride out our last couple years, get the free sweats, and call it right." Like, but these girls are like, they believe it, and a lot of them won state championships in high school. A lot of them come from teams where they were the top team, and they know what it feels like to be at the top of the rankings and walk into nights and be the team that is feared. So this is a totally different role for some of your players. But I love this, that they're able to transition, pivot, take these roles, and be leaders for girls in high school that are looking ahead. I mean, like I said, you see a lot of transfer portal names that are Minnesotans, and it's like maybe they weren't prepared well enough to understand that theory of knowing your role, and that regardless of your ice time or your production, you are incredibly valuable to a team.
Yeah, and I mean, let's just address the obvious. Like, I think everyone that gets into coaching, I guess in my opinion, for the right reasons, we'll call it, really wants growth for their student athletes. They want them to become the best version of themselves and really flourish, right? And so to me, it's like, you know, and as a coach, it's really hard because I'm as competitive as they come. I hate losing. I hate it. I hate losing more than I love winning. I do. And so I think, though, there is so much to be learned in the losses, and that's life, right? Like, life is challenging. It's hard. There's adversity that shows up, and how are you going to deal with it? And so I think the natural platform that we have at St. Thomas right now is, even though we have so many players that come from just a tremendous amount of success individually and at a team level in their high school and their AAA careers before this, they are learning how to deal with life. And it's not always easy to remember that in the sports context. It's really tough when you don't get rewarded with all the wins you want early. But I tell you what, when someone gets their first goal, or we sweep for the first time in program history, we beat a top 10 opponent, top 5 opponent, it feels so different. It feels earned in a different way. And at a coach level too, I mean, that was a part of why I came to St. Thomas, was to build something from the grassroots up. And I tell you what, it is extremely challenging. It's extremely hard, but it's the most rewarding hockey experience I think anyone could ever be a part of.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic.
That was a mic drop moment right there. We're gonna clip.
Are we
Can
done?
we clip that one? No, we are not
Oh, we're
done,
not done.
Bethany.
Oh.
You
You're
can't
here
just
forever.
walk out on that one.
We'll be here all afternoon. Okay.
You say you're here forever. Yeah,
If you want to.
Going forward, those games, especially against St. Cloud and against Bemidji State coming up, how big is that recruiting-wise? Because you want to beat your in-states, right? Because that could sway some of these players that are on the fence if they're deciding between Huskies and Tommies.
Yeah, it's obviously a huge part of it. We try not to focus too much on that big 10,000-foot level because, as you guys know, you control what you can control, right? And you prepare really well throughout the week. You watch video, you have individual meetings, you structure practice really strategically. And sometimes it's your night and sometimes it's not. You might come out and win a game and do it the wrong way. You might also lose a game and do it the right way. And so I think that's a big component of it, is we try not to put too much weight or too much stress on that individual game and how it might impact something like recruiting. We are trusting the process of playing the game the right way. And I think if we can do that, we can be really proud of how we're playing, and hopefully you get reward with wins, and usually you do, but that's not always the case. And so I think you have to have a track record of enough success to get some of these recruits in the door, to show them what you've done and what you've proven, but more importantly, where you're going. And so I think that's the big thing, is that's not just hockey related. It's academics, it's culture, it's the atmosphere of St. Thomas and what you can offer that way. So again, I think the wins are important, but it's really to get your foot in the door with some of those future players and then show them the whole holistic development opportunity that they get at St. Thomas and where we're going.
How is your time changing now as the head coach? I've talked to a few of your players' parents, and they say that you were so integral in their girls' decision to come to UST in your role as an assistant coach. Now that you have bigger shoes on, how do you plan to delegate some of that? Because you were a key, feature here for some of these players, and you still are as a head, but obviously the head coach role is so different than the assistant coach role, and you don't necessarily get to be is connected potentially with the girls, but especially in their recruitment process. How do you plan to continue to drive these recruiting numbers and these big names that you were able to bring individually to the program while you have these other tasks at hand?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I definitely appreciate you saying that. That means a lot to me. So thank you. I think, there's a couple things that come to mind as you're talking. Number one, I think a big thing for me at the individual level is I always really want to remain as much as I can authentic and true to myself. I think by nature, I'm much more of a player's coach. I just think that they are a plethora of knowledge. I mean, if we are not accounting for their voices, their thoughts, their opinions on things, I think as coaches we're missing. I mean, they are the experts of their own lives and what happens inside that locker room. And so if we aren't really leaning on them, I think that's a big mistake. And so I think it's challenging as a head coach. You still ultimately need to make the best decisions for your entire program with all the information you have. And it can never be solely based on just what one individual said or maybe a captain group. But you have to account for it. You have to hear those voices. And so that would be how I would hope to preserve those types of really meaningful relationships with our current players and future players, is really with that approach. I think that's huge in college athletics today. That was huge for me as a player, is I think it's really important that those voices are heard, understood, valued, and I'm never going to get away from that. I think that's just such a critical piece. And that being said, you asked about delegation. I can't tell you how lucky I am to have Marty and Allie on staff, and Allie to have stepped in from that director of ops role right into a coaching role. Our players absolutely adore them. We were talking about Marty before. I think he's like, if you meet him within 5 minutes, you're like, gosh, he's one of my favorite people I've ever met.
Guy.
Oh, gosh, he really is. And it's so authentic. I'm like waiting for him to be mean or someone to dislike him. It has not happened yet. But it makes it easy when you work with people that are so relationship based, and ultimately they care first and foremost about the student athletes. Obviously, the hockey is something that is always going to be a priority. Like I said, we're so competitive, all three of us. And so we're going to keep pushing the needle and climbing in this league and becoming a national tournament type of contending team. I really do believe that. But when you're people-focused and people-centered, a lot of the winning and success, it has to start at that foundational level.
I'm glad you mentioned Marty there, because
let's talk about Marty. Let's go.
From the outside, obviously Joel was the figurehead and you and Marty were the assistant coaches, right?
Yep.
And after Joel's departure from the outside, you could make an assumption that there would be a little bit of sibling rivalry there between two assistant coaches. And Marty doesn't exactly have a crappy resume as a coach either. I mean, as a skills instructor, he's one of the best in the state.
Yep. He was a decent hockey player too, I guess.
He was okay. He's all right. His dad might have been better. Mikey might have been a little bit better than Marty. That's okay. But you're so fortunate because you and Marty were able to move up together. And although you got the head job, it feels like you are pretty willingly giving Marty his flowers at every turn.
Well, let's just call it a spade a spade. I mean, from a resume perspective, like, look at him. He was Hobie Baker, played at Colorado College. Like, he is my idol from a hockey standpoint. So his resume, like you said, coaching and playing is tremendous. Like, we are so, so lucky to have Marty. We talked a little bit before the podcast about, that first year of the program, and Coach Johnson at the time was away with the Olympics. And so we really got a lot of autonomy, Marty and I in particular, and Allie stepping up into some bigger roles as well. But Marty has never been anything but just the utmost respectful of the opportunity for me to kind of step into some of those positions, both as the acting head coach that first year and then stepping into that interim and now officially the head coach role. And I think that him and I, we talked about the other day, but we really do have such a special relationship. I don't know if it's the Roseville blood and just having that in common or what, but he really is just such a fantastic person. He's a fantastic leader. And like you said, from a hockey perspective, just an amazing hockey coach. And so we're really, really fortunate to have him. And to me, it is, I guess, kind of like the sibling, relationship. We're very close, very dynamic, I think, in how we operate together. But the one thing that's really nice is from a sibling perspective, we have never fought, not yet. So not yet. So him and I, we do really get along super, super well. And better than my sisters, which we get into a few more arguments between them and me. But
so luckily you don't have to coach with them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But no, he's a tremendous person. I can't say enough good things about Marty.
So the only time you'll fight is when some school comes along and offers Marty an associate head coach
Then
role.
we will get into our first fight, I think.
The nice thing for you, though,
Absolutely.
and this goes back to the St. Thomas atmosphere, St. Thomas is kind of an anomaly in the college space where enrollment is so down.
Mm-hmm.
But St. Thomas's keeps rising, and St. Thomas is spending. So you might be able to keep Marty around.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
If the Andersons want to whip out that checkbook or that Amex Platinum card
Yeah, I
again.
tell you what. I mean, we've kind of crossed our fingers, as we've had conversations over the last couple months. But I think between Marty, Allie, and I, from a hockey standpoint and coaching, there's no better place to be. There really isn't. I mean, I wouldn't have went to St. Thomas if I didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
So hopefully, my goal would be to have a retention of our staff as long as possible.
So don't bother, Badgers and Buckeyes.
Yeah, whoever's listening, don't you start calling Marty, Allie. You know what? They're wonderful people. They're not going
Don't worry,
anywhere.
they don't listen.
Yeah.
Lose their number, Harvard.
I mean, to make reference to a current astrological phenomenon going on, which is 8 planets aligning. That's how I feel things are going for UST. Honestly, like to move from D3 to D1 and have the opportunity to bring in a new head coach and, it looks like there's some new facilities underway.
Yeah.
The ability to play in the postseason. There are planets aligning for the University of St. Thomas women's hockey team right now. And I, for one, have been projecting it for about 6 to 8 months, and I am so pumped to continue to watch.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave out some of your hockey background. We're talking about Marty, like he's such a great hockey player.
Okay, hold on.
Bethany has
Marty Surdich was my god as a child.
Bethany has
good in mine, too.
a
I
state
get it.
championship, a Player of the Year from the Star Tribune.
It was the
all
curtains and
conference,
Marty
all
Surdich.
tournament.
Hold on. Okay, quick question.
Yeah.
Miss Hockey,
If Rhonda
4 years
Engelhart-
at the U, never missed a game.
I'm about to bring up a woman. If Rhonda Engelhart and Marty Surdich ran for mayor of Roseville tomorrow, who wins?
Rhonda.
Oh, that is such a good question.
But it has
See,
to
I
be
don't think
Rhonda
it's-
and
I
Renee.
don't think it's Rhonda.
It would have to
See-
be Rhonda and Renee.
I know both of them very well, obviously. I've done a ton of stuff with Rhonda over the years, and obviously Marty I know like the back of my hand, as we talked about. But I will tell you, I have to say Marty in this situation because I literally call him the mayor. You cannot go anywhere with Marty without him. It doesn't matter if it's boys hockey, girls hockey, women's, men's,
Basketball.
college. It could
Softball.
be basketball. My gosh, the guy, he knows everyone. It's incredible. It's
So
incredible.
it's going to be Marty.
The hockey community is a nice size, right?
It is.
If you're well involved.
And if we threw Steve Surdich in there,
So Steve, he talk about wonderful humans.
landslide mayor.
Yeah, and I know you were.
Landslide.
Yeah, eventually, I think we were talking a little bit about coaches and influences and stuff, and Steve would definitely be on my list. He actually he took a really big chance on me as an 8th grader when I was at Roseville. To go on the varsity program. He let me earn my stripes a little bit for the first few months before putting me with Franny Dorr as a senior and Aaron Cody, who ended up at Bemidji as a junior. Well, they both did up at Bemidji.
Franny Dorr was on my Wham team.
Oh my gosh! Talk about good humans. The Roseville. I'm not saying it's not connected. Okay.
I went to Aaron Cody's grad party
Did you? That's your claim to fame.
a million years ago. Yeah.
Hey, don't age Aaron like that. No, she. But yeah, like Steve Surdich. I mean, you wonder where Marty gets it. Look right at his dad, and what a wonderful human. And like I said, took a really big chance on me at a young age. He was really the first coach, I think, who truly, truly believed in me at that kind of level that I thought I could be a Division I college player and I could go on and have some impact. So I would be remiss if I didn't bring his name up when you
I think
mentioned
it's so cool that you say that happened at 8th grade, and it can remind coaches out there that have young women in the 7th and 8th grade range that you are so instrumental in potentially bringing on one of the future's biggest leaders in the way you're coaching today, right? The way that you provide some stability and encouragement to your teammates. So keep that in mind if you want to make another Bethany.
There you go.
So coaching mentors, we already mentioned Steve Surdich. Who are some of the women who mentored you as coaches?
Yeah. I mentioned her in the press conference the other day just because she's just the most kind of prolific name in girls and women's hockey, obviously, in Minnesota. But Winnie Burrow, too, I'm sure really well.
Yep.
But I said the other day, it's true. She really did kind of raise me in hockey from a female perspective. I mean, growing up, it was all men. It was, dads coaching hockey teams my whole way up. I mentioned Steve Surdich in high school, but Winnie really kind of in my middle school and then transitioning into my high school career, she had a big space in the girls hockey world. And I think that was the first year we had like one junior Whitecaps hockey team, one little AAA team. You know, she had a group of 10 of us on the ice doing some summer stuff before OS really exploded. So she was definitely a big part of it, just being such a prolific hockey person and growing the sport like she did in Minnesota. You know, you mentioned Rhonda. I coached with her at Breck. She was really the first person to give me a hockey opportunity to be a coach, which was pretty special. So I coached with her and Angela Gertz over there for my first couple of years before going to Minnesota. And, you know, I had Darwitz my first year as a freshman, so not a super long time with her. But then had Nadine Musrell, who's now the Ohio State head coach, the Ohio State, to be clear.
Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Yes, but so she was there for 3 years. So I've been really fortunate. I mean,
you have
I
some
actually
big
had
names.
Yeah, I
Like,
had
what?
some females like throughout the years, and
Yeah.
and what's really cool is I think if you went and asked our current players, they would be able to recreate a similar type of answer. I think people that are older than me wouldn't naturally be able to do that. So I think I was really fortunate where I was kind of in that transition window of having females start to get into the game. I just think it's so important. It's so important to be able to model, to lead for these young women. And having had the experience is just something that really can't be created from others, I don't think.
Yeah, it's no wonder that you became the perfect person for this job.
I don't know about perfect. I mean,
Well,
I'll take your vote of
I mean, we'll
confidence, but
see. Yeah, there's still a lot of hockey left,
is
but I'm
plenty of hockey.
optimistic. I'm
Thank you.
optimistic. Peter,
I know. I'm just thinking about Phil Eston
Guys.
listening to this and going, "Oh my God, what have I done?
why did I let Bethany go on the rogue
Why
pod?
did I
It's
let
like,
her
what is
do
this?
this?"
we call ourselves the
podcast?
rogue
Yeah.
pod.
So we've been rolling for like 40 minutes at this point. I
Dang.
think. Has it been 40 minutes, Kayla?
35.
35.
Nice.
Okay, so we don't
Nice.
have to go through every aspect of your childhood and your prep
I
career.
mean,
that's for the best for
Whi-
everyone.
which included 3 all-state team selections: Pioneer Press Player of the Year, Star Tribune Metro Player of the Year, Miss Hockey, state champion as a senior. So what was it like being the shit in high school, Bethany?
Didn't really feel like that. No, I honestly, like, when I look back on my playing career, I am not naive to the fact that, like, I played in a lot of the right places at the right time. I mean, to grow up in Roseville, like I said, it had just such a tradition hockey program with the Broats and, you know, Rhonda Renee coming up and just having that rich tradition. And so by the time that I got there, it was already a really well-established program at that foundational level. And so I think that helped tremendously with my success. I mean, you're only as good as the people that are around you, and being able to help build in a team at program in that way. So I think that I was in the right places at the right time. I went to Minnesota, and to be very clear, I was not Hobie Baker type. I was not.
You
the
are
Patty
selling
Kaz,
yourself
okay?
so short
No,
right now.
but I really do mean it. I mean, I look back and I think of the people that I'm still networked with, of teammates in college. And I mean, for goodness sakes, my senior year, I was playing with Danny Cameronese, and
She's okay.
yeah, I'm looking back and I'm like, gosh, I didn't even realize at the time what a privilege, you know. And you're looking at our lineup, and you had, gosh, I'm going to miss someone, but we had Amanda Kessel, Hannah Brandt, Lee Steckline, a few national team players on the Canadian side. And then you look at Rachel Bonner, Rachel Ramsey, Melissa McMillan, Nora Ratu, Mira. Like, it's wild to think about. And so I really do think any individual success is a direct reflection of the group that you get the opportunity and privilege to play with. And certainly you talk about wins and things like that, especially in college. I mean, I tip my cap to my teammates because I was really lucky to be a part of it with such prolific hockey players.
But did any of them separate both shoulders weeks apart
I knew
and
I should have
not
told you
miss a
that
game?
story.
No,
I
you shouldn't
knew.
have, because now we're going to bring it up right now.
I did have a couple shoulder separations. I could talk about that now. Couldn't talk about it at the time on an interview.
Yeah, I
but
would've just-
yeah, they'd be like, medical concerns. Don't tell people that. But yeah, no, when I was in college, back to back, had shoulder separation. Never had a hockey injury outside of that in my entire life. But had those back to back as I was kind of recovering. And that was during our winning stretch where we hadn't lost for a few games. Yep. And so at the time, it was very important to me to make sure that even though I knew I was not going to be the goal scorer, I told you, but just to get out there and to put in the work and the time and the effort to make sure that I was showing to my teammates you got to be tough. You got to be resilient through those moments, especially down the stretch in playoffs, and knew that if I could demonstrate that for my teammates as an upperclassman and as a leader in the team, that might motivate them to work that much harder in each game.
So team-wise, you haven't really struggled very much. Let's be honest.
Team-wise,
Roseville was a
absolutely
juggernaut.
not, yeah.
U of M, you won 2 national championships. But as a player, you went from a Miss Hockey winner who had 70 points as a senior, and then you ended up totaling 50 points in 4 years with the girls.
51.
Thank you.
51. I'm sorry. I missed that second assist on an empty net goal and a
that
10-0 win. I'm
right.
sorry.
Could have been that.
From a personal perspective, was that a bit of a transition for you? Did you have to give yourself a reality check? Like, okay, I'm not going to score 35 goals at this level.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I think I knew it pretty quick though, in the first few games. You don't like to admit it. And like I said, competitive athletes, like you're always striving to do more, and that's a good, healthy thing. You should always have that. But I quickly realized that my role was going to shift in college. And I think that the sooner I kind of came to terms with that and realized how important it was, I mean, I say it now, and maybe I'm biased because this was kind of my role, but I was on the third line primarily for my years at Minnesota. But I tell you what, the importance of going against a first line, I think back to, let's throw some names out there, but Megan Duggan, Knight, and Decker, they'd stack that line for Wisconsin, and it's like, all right, Brausen's line, get out there. But I tell you what, if you shut down that line, your team probably wins.
You're doing a bigger job than
or different, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the point is like maybe bigger isn't the right word. Everyone's role, like we were talking about, is so important, but everyone's role is different and equally important. And so I think about that a lot, and I think that made me a way better coach today. And that's what our players don't realize is it will make them way better coaches one day, or way better mothers or wives or professionals in their work environment, is to have that experience when you don't always get the nod, or maybe you don't score 70 points on a season. It's hard to understand that in the moment, but usually you get that hindsight weeks out or years out, but it makes you a much more resilient person down the stretch.
Jesse, I got one more home run question.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, it's no wonder that your senior dissertation's on organizational leadership, and it just sounds like this program is in really good hands. Like I said, I'm super excited to continue
Thanks
watching.
for saying that. That's very nice.
I'm going to try to bring a tear to your eye.
Okay,
Ooh.
all right. It could happen.
This is my $1 million question.
Should I take my hat off for this?
I want you to think about all the people that have placed their confidence in you.
Mm-hmm.
Phil Eston, the St. Thomas community. You've got a beautiful brand new rink coming next year. You have this group of underclassmen. You're really going to grow up with these girls, and you're going to watch them have so much success. Can you crystallize what could be on the horizon for St. Thomas if all the chips fall into place?
The 9th planet aligned.
Yeah. Gosh,
How many
we're really
planets are
breaking
there?
that down today. I love that.
I thought there were only 8 planets.
How many are there? Wait, sorry. Okay.
Why don't you know how many planets there are? Oh, we just
There's one less
Back
aligned right
to
now.
our planet podcast.
we just crapped all over my question.
No, that is a wonderful question. Let's not miss that. If I could crystallize it, gosh, I don't know. I guess my answer to that is, as you're explaining it, my heart is racing and I'm getting goosebumps. Like that's my answer. That's why I think St. Thomas is capable of. And you mentioned like all the right pieces, they have to be in place, right? Like I can't thank Phil enough for giving me the opportunity. He could have done anything with this decision, and he entrusted me. And we've had some really, really great conversations. I just think he's such a special, gifted leader. And that's why St. Thomas has had the success. It starts at that top level and it trickles all the way down. But you have to have the right leader in place. And so, you mentioned that, the Lee and Penny Anderson Ice Arena, like I keep joking, our juniors, they're going to know what it's like to go from like rags to riches. And then we're going to have a freshman class who like, they don't know anything different. What an interesting dichotomy, right? And our juniors are going to be like, you better appreciate that because you don't know what it's like to be on the other side. So we have such a special thing going from that top level in our administration. I think of Ben Frazier. He's our sports administrator. What a fantastic leader.
Wisco, baby.
Yeah, Wisco. Got to give a shout out. But that's, from the department level, we have all the right people in place, doing the right things, living in integrity, and that can't be missed. We have the Lee and Penny Anderson. Without that generosity, it's like we couldn't make that next big jump into Division I athletics. So without them, like none of this would be possible, in my opinion. But it's the people, it's the facilities, it's the resources of the academic institution and what it can provide. And then on us, it's the recruiting. We have to bring in the right hockey players, and more important, you have to bring in the right people. They have to be good enough hockey players, but if you don't get the right people in place, that's where your team culture never builds. And so we think that we're doing the right things. We think we have the right people in place and the right future recruits that are committed. So to answer this in the longest way possible, to crystallize it, I don't know if there's a limitation on where St. Thomas could go. I think that they were a sleeping giant when they were D3 and having those conversations of going D1. And I just could not be more proud to be a part of it when I am, because I think sky is absolutely the limit.
Bring it.
I think you can cut it right there. That's Bethany Brausen, the interim tag, removed the head coach of the University of St.
See you
Thomas.
at the moon, baby.
See you at the
I have her
moon.
back to the space stuff. I love it.
Bethany, thanks so much for letting us crash your rink
Yep.
here this morning, and thanks so much for giving us way too much
Wait,
time.
yeah. Do you need anybody to fill water bottles? Because I want to be a
Oh
part
my
of this.
No,
I want
absolutely.
in.
You guys are in. You're in.
I want in.
Thanks for having me, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Welcome back to the studio. What an incredible interview with Bethany. Seriously, so excited
She's
for
the
UST.
best.
Yeah. After their weekend, the WCHA Rookie of the Week goes to Danny Strom for her 33 out of 35 saves and 40 out of 43. And Forward of the Week goes to Lauren Stensley with 5 points over the weekend, 2 assists on Friday, and a goal and 2 assists on Saturday. So congratulations to WCHA, Wow and Wow, who we rarely get Minnesota representation out of the WCHA. So awesome weekend. Can't wait to see what you guys do this weekend against St. Cloud State, who recently, as I mentioned, is bumping down the poll. They're now at 11th, and coming up in Division I hockey, outside of the St. Thomas St. Cloud State matchup, Minnesota State's going to play Bemidji, so that should be a fun series, actually.
100%.
To see those two teams who've both improved over the season and play really, really hard games of hockey and constantly have to lose to top 10 teams in the country, to get a chance to play heads up should be a fun series and fun for some of those players as well. Minnesota versus Ohio State, that'll be a great series. Minnesota's ranked number 3, Ohio State's ranked number 2. And then Wisconsin, Minnesota, Duluth. So a big inter-conference matchups weekend for the WCHA, but they're matched up really nicely this weekend as far as who's playing who. So outside of the WCHA in the Nuha, that's not Nuha.
That's not Nuha. Looks like the CCHA to me.
Okay. Clarkson, number 9, is going to play Cornell, number 5.
Oh, that's the Atlantic.
That's going to be on Saturday. And then St. Lawrence, number 7, will play Colgate, number 4, that same Saturday. And that is
St. Thomas, St. Cloud State. Did you mention that one?
I did, yep.
Yep.
I mean, kind of loosely. So
It's a big series.
it is a huge series. St. Thomas has got kind of they're riding the coattails of a really good weekend. So let's see. And of course the announcement of Bethany as the formal full head coach. No interim label. The interim label was dropped. So some things are settling down for St. Thomas, and some things are starting to come together for them. Love that ice cube analogy, right? Like they're doing everything right to get the room hot, and the ice cube's going to start melting at 32, 33 degrees, and watch out. So let's see, that leaves us with other hockey news, and the only other hockey news I have is this invite to you guys for this, I guess, is it or is it not a leave your keys at the front door play?
So where did you figure out this, or where did you
find
hear
this?
about it?
Okay, let me think. Hold on.
Somewhere
important.
To give context,
Yeah, like I wonder if it was from Wham. I wonder if it's like a Wham thing
she's inviting us to a hockey play
called Glory.
that is about in 1933, 4 friends set out to prove to Canada that hockey isn't just a sport for men, and it's like Great Depression era, like, and it's a play in Minneapolis.
I mean, can these women overcome the odds?
And she's inviting us to this play.
Yeah,
so.
it's Fridays and Saturdays from now through Sunday, February 9th at the Theater in the Round. You can get tickets online. It's called Glory by Tracy Power, a hockey play that swings. We'll keep you posted.
It means music.
Okay,
Okay,
we don't.
good.
We're not
looking-
like
sure.
swing music.
We're not sure.
Yes. I'm looking at a Facebook mention. I don't want to click on it because I don't really want to sign
Just
into
in
Facebook.
case.
But it says, we are so excited to present this exciting play full of electro swing jazz.
Nice.
Yes.
Thank
Hockey,
God.
friendship, laughter, and determination. Does that all fit?
Okay.
Does that all fit
Hockey,
under one
friendship,
umbrella?
laughter, determination,
Full electro swing jazz.
electro swing jazz. All my
What
favorite things.
day
That's
are
my
you guys
favorite type
free?
of jazz is electro swing jazz.
Yeah.
I just didn't
too.
know how the heck you would even hear about this.
I really get kind of into I haven't in a lot of places, so.
You're a theater
Yeah.
kid at heart, aren't you?
No.
I feel
I'm
like if
not.
you would have done theater, you would have really
Like,
enjoyed
I
it.
maybe
You
wouldn't have
would've.
failed out of college.
No, I'm not, I didn't want to bring up you failing out of college. You
I
brought
passed
that up.
college. You guys, I passed college.
I
right?
passed college.
I passed college.
That is Glory Theater in the round. We will find. We
There's
should
1,
find a
2,
day
3,
to go.
4,
Yeah, we should
5.
find a day to
There's
go.
6 more shows. We got plenty of time.
There's 6 more shows.
They've
so
got ones on Sundays.
February.
that's what I'm saying.
like,
There's matinees.
this
there's-
Saturday, this Friday, this Saturday, this Sunday.
Saturday's my birthday party.
Is it your birthday on Saturday?
No, it was my birthday. Remember you saying
We were
happy
here.
birthday to me?
We did, didn't we? Okay, good for us.
My
Literally, we're
family's
here.
a bunch of busy people, so we're having
doing the party
a
later.
Party later.
Should we sing to you again?
No, dear God.
Happy
Uh,
birthday.
Oh,
yeah,
wait,
we'll figure out a
Wait,
day.
guys, the last thing on my
To-
list, I wanted to follow up on the ages of the Duluth hockey team because I've been talking about how they're all grandmothers or whatever.
Because they're
Okay.
like 6 years or whatever.
Yeah, okay. So there are 3 fifth-year players on Duluth,
Okay.
1 grad student,
Not exactly a grandmother.
and 5 seniors. So I
Yeah.
was
Oh,
being a little dramatic, okay?
okay, but that's still older
still a
for
lot. It is
for
still a
a
lot.
general outlook of a team.
Yeah.
It's not that many, though.
Yeah, like it's not the whole entire team, like I said. Okay, Duluth, you are also good at hockey. I'm sorry.
Sometimes we like to be dramatic.
Did somebody text you angrily or something? Because you're
No, but
backtracking
You know
really
how I
hard
said I
right
like to
now.
be proactive. I get ahead of these things. I don't want comments. I don't want negativity.
Comments about jerseys on the wall.
Hey, but I do invite all your comments and engagement, you guys. I get very little attention, so please comment and engage all
We
you
want
can.
attention.
Hey, there's no way around. On top of the mountain, I'm queen of the mountain.